What is up? The Leafs Convo back at it for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. I'm Norman, London, Ontario, along with Mike, who's in Buffalo, New York. The Leafs not playing, but dealing. The big trade. Mike, let's sort it all out.
Good evening, Norm. It took a little bit of a it was a little bit of a shock that the deal was made during the playoffs. If you remember a couple of years ago, I remember a trade between Vancouver and Florida. I think it was the Eric Branson, Jared McCann deal that it was happening during the Calder Cup playoffs and during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And normally that doesn't happen, but this year has been weird. And clearly Jim Rutherford wanted to make a deal, and obviously Kyle Dubas, after his season-ending media availability, decided that he wanted to make some sort of shakeup and start down the road. And he did today with the dealing of Kasperi Kapanen back to the Pittsburgh Penguins for it's a 6-player deal also involving a number 1 pick, which the Leafs get back. Rather eventful trade on a late August day.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oakridge Ford, re-upping on a sponsorship deal with the great car dealership in London, Ontario. Looking forward to representing Oakridge Ford for the days, months, and years to come. I work there, and Mike, you're kind of a sort of a employee too, because they are helping us out a little bit financially. And you know what? All the listens, that's helping us out too. The more listens we get, the more we're prompted to create content. Even if no one was listening, we certainly would be doing that. But thank you very much for all of the support, even though the Leafs aren't playing. So to the Penguins, Kapanen, Lindbergh, Aberg. Back to the Leafs, the first-round pick, 15th overall, Rodriguez, Hollander, and Warsofsky. So it's a big deal, but I'm thinking there's going to be a bigger deal or a bigger acquisition when all is said and done. Coming after this facilitating more change. You have to think the Leafs are going after some gritty defense.
Well, Kyle Dubas basically said in his press availability this afternoon that, this is the first of a number of changes. Now, he's not going to say who, he's not going to say how many, but this was a precursor of a larger move during the offseason. Now, I like this deal because they recouped the first-round pick. This is a deep draft. They're picking 15th overall. They would have been picking 13th overall with the pick that was traded to Carolina to get rid of Patrick Marleau's contract. So they're pretty much in the same place. They did have to give up Kapanen, but they were going to have to move out cap space to make some of the moves that they wanted this summer, or it'll be this fall. And we know the story with Kapanen. I think he was a really talented but inconsistent player. I hope he has success in Pittsburgh, but I clearly, in his role with the Leafs, he was going to be a third-line winger, locked in on the right side. He didn't play well on the left side. But the reason that this deal is good is, first, they clear $3.2 million in cap space. Second of all, they get a first-round pick, which, as I said, the draft is a pretty good draft. So they're going to get a good prospect there. And based on what Dubas has done with guys like Rasmus Sandin and Nick Robertson, they've been able to recognize talent with their high picks. But they also get a really good prospect in Philip Hallander, who was a second-round pick of the Penguins a couple years ago, played 2 years in the SHL, will probably stay there this year as well. But when he comes over, they believe he's an NHL player. So maybe he gets a little bit of a look at the AHL before that. But, this is a player who eventually could play in the NHL. Rodriguez, I'd heard rumors about Rodriguez and the Leafs and them having interest in him going back to last year when he was with the Sabres. The interesting thing with him is he's a restricted free agent with arbitration eligibility. If they can't get him to sign a less expensive deal, he was a $2 million cap hit last year, it's very possible they could just not offer him a qualifying offer and he goes to free agency. But with the cap at 81.5 and staying that way for a couple of years, they sort of had the leverage. He's a Toronto kid. They probably can get him on a 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal at probably close to half or a little more than half of what he signed for last year. And if that's the case, then they save a couple $1 million on the cap and get themselves a depth forward. So I think it works all the way around. And it really, Aberg was not somebody they were going to qualify, and Lindgren was probably 4th or 5th on their depth chart in terms of defensive prospects. So this was a pretty good deal for the Leafs.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle Dubas thinking bigger picture, but the picture is going to be ugly if this team can't, in the near term, make some adjustments and some certifiable changes to the back end. Watching teams like Montreal and Philadelphia continue to play while the Leafs are out again, it sucks. And for those who say, well, this is a long-term plan, long-term game. Well, what about these other teams that started off this past season less than what the Maple Leafs were and less than what the Maple Leafs had? And they continue on. I mean, we can't keep saying, well, first round exit after first round exit will lead to a long run at some point when all the stats line up. It's not going to be that way. And Kyle Dubas absolutely knows it. And I don't want to be fatalistic in thinking here, because the Leafs could go off and become the greatest team since sliced bread at some point if all these guys do what they're capable of doing. And the additions come in and contribute too. But if the Leafs fail to make the playoffs in the next season, whatever it is, however long it is, however it's configured, or lose in the first round, your boy Kyle Dubas, his head will be stuck straight into the guillotine. It's his head the next time this team fails as miserably as it has.
And I think he knows that. I think he knows his job is on the line. If not after next season, then probably the season after that. That's why I think he's being proactive and making the changes that he needs to make. Now they have additional cap space. I think they're around $7 million in cap space, and we know that other moves are going to be made. Maybe some of that cap space will be used to re-sign Ilya Mikheyev and Travis Dermott. I do think there are going to be other changes. But all you have to do is look at the teams in the playoffs right now that are having success. Teams like Boston, teams like Tampa, deep defenses, a team like Dallas, who's offensively challenged, but look at their blue line. Lindell.
You called it, Mike. You called it. Yeah. I mean,
Lindell, Heiskanen, Klingberg, Alexiak. I mean, they're all these teams. If you have depth on defense, you can find the scoring. Mm-hmm. And they, with Tavares and Matthews, those are offensive creators. They need a better defense for this team to be successful.
Yeah, and the challenge here is going all in on the top 3 plus Nylander. It's who wants to get rid of 88? I mean, he's such an integral part of the way the team is composed up front. But being top heavy financially comes at a cost on the back end. And that's Kyle Dubas' job now to figure out a way to keep all those guys and have those guys run at full capacity, do what they're meant to do, and augment that group with, some solid defensive contributions, guys who know what they're doing, guys who don't need another 2-3 seasons to figure it out, because this entire program needs to get on the same page. This entire program needs to start moving as one unit. This is the Leafs Convo for Oakridge Ford. Norm with Mike. Have your say below this post on YouTube or in community. I'll put up a poll or a question. Go to community. I have to thank the OGs and the converts for all of the support recently. The last Convo blew up huge, like right across the board. Crazy listens, crazy interaction. This is what the Convo is all about. Unfortunately, it comes after the Leafs lose another fucking series, and I'm sorry I have to punctuate it. It pisses me off, but we're in this misery together, and we can all hope for better together through this project that is the Leafs Convo. Going into season 3, Mike, Bruce Boudreau. Is this guy going to be an associate coach with the Maple Leafs? It seems like he checks all the boxes for the right kind of guy to come in with some coaching vacancies to support Sheldon Keefe. Mm-hmm. What's the latest on this? And, I mean, can a guy like that, who's not actually lacing them up and playing the game, make this team better if he were to come to Toronto?
Well, I mean, right now the landscape of the Leafs coaching staff, Paul McFarland took over as a GM and head coach of the Kingston Frontenacs. They moved on from Andrew Brewer, who was an assistant under Babcock. Dave Haxtell is still in place, but there's been some speculation that he might move on. If that happens, then really they have nobody with any kind of NHL coaching experience. There's been talk of AJ McLean, who worked with Keefe in the Sioux and with the Marlies, but they want to bring in a veteran coach, even if Haxtell does stay. And Haxtell primarily has worked with the defense, while McFarland worked with the forwards and on the power play, and that's Boudreau's bailiwick. He's really good with forwards. He's a sort of a lighthearted guy. He's I mean, very, very, from his interviews and things of that nature, he's somebody who's very popular. He has a future, or at least it sounds like he wants to have a future in media, because he's working for NHL Network right now. But in terms of what the Leafs are focused on, he's a good coach. He's an offensive coach. He works well with talent. He did in Washington. He did in Anaheim. He did in Minnesota for a time. The issue here is there is one head coaching job available in Washington. I seriously doubt Washington is going to go back to Boudreau after he was there a few years ago, but it's possible. If he doesn't get that job, there are no head coaching positions, and Seattle will hire probably sometime, probably in the new year. So he might be interested in taking an assistant coach job with the Leafs, being that veteran guy, the sounding board for Sheldon Keefe. And actually, I think it would be a great idea, because he's a big Toronto fan. He's always been a Leaf fan. He's a former Leaf. He's from the Toronto area. I think it clicks all the boxes. So I wouldn't be opposed to it if that happens.
Is it okay to have a boomer on Sheldon Keefe's staff?
I don't see a problem with it. I really don't. I think experience is a good thing.
Come on, man. You can't do this game if you're past a certain age, right? It's just not acceptable. I'm kidding. I'm dredging up old controversies and arguments.
Yeah, Don Zimmer was a bad bench coach for the Yankees.
I don't care. Honestly, I don't care which corpse you resume to coach this team. Punch Imlach, Toe Blake, get them to win something. Just looking at these box scores, like Dallas up 2-0 on Colorado. The New York Islanders, they're playing. Vancouver, what? I thought the Leafs were the Canadian hope. Boston continues to do its thing, and I'm sure there are Leaf fans out there who still think the Leafs are better than Boston, and then in the end, after Boston wins a couple of titles or goes on a few runs, the Leafs may overtake them at some point when Austin Matthews moves on to Arizona. See, I'm getting negative, and I don't want to be negative. OG's converts carry this conversation in the comment section below the post on YouTube. You can get at us on Twitter, at Mike and Buffalo, at I am Norm James. What is my Twitter handle anyway? I have not been on Twitter.
I am Norman James.
I am at I am Norman James, or at the Leafs Convo 2, contributing community. Like and subscribe. We're subscribership's up, views are up, listens are up. Stick with us. It just propels us forward. More content is coming. And even if no one listens or supports, we will continue doing this because we are contractually obligated to. And that's a good thing for us. Last word to you, Mike.
Yeah, I notice in the playoffs right now, the teams that are having success are the teams that play defense. And that's all I have to say.
Great stuff, Mike. We'll talk to you again real soon. Sunday, book it. Can't wait. Talk to you later, Mike.
Thanks, Norm.